this project in front of you right now. Taking a look at the notes in the sheet there, we'll kind of explain what it is. Like I said, we're going to be starting our collage project today. There are some learning objectives that we need to kind of talk about really quick. Over the last week and a half, we have talked about the quick selection tool, the magic wand tool, the marquee tool, and then we spent yesterday or 2 classes ago, we spent talking about the masking function and how we can use that to non-destructively remove the background from our photo. And that's kind of what this whole assignment is about, is using our layer mask along with some of the selection tools to refine our piece. There is one piece here where it says required submission files. We need to change the location. It's going to be the G drive, so go ahead and update that. So it no longer says the I drive. We just want to make sure we're saving it in a place where we can get it at home and we can get it here. So just go ahead and update that for me. It also does talk about the file naming right there. So you got an example of how to do it. It's going to be your last name, and then the collage.psd is how you're going to name the file. Below that is the grading rubric that goes with it. The total project is worth 38 points. It says that you'll be finding 6 to 10 photos, so I'll be counting up the photos, making sure you've got the correct number of pieces there. New adjustment layers, we'll go over that really fast when I show you a demo project, but you will have to have at least 3 of them. Not every piece needs to have one, but at least 3 of the files do. Use of selection tools, using the proper one and making proper selections, doing non-destructive editing. That basically means you're using a mask to remove the background if needed. Transform tool, that is going to be like resizing or positioning an object, so it's pretty easy to get that taken care of. But if you want to resize something real fast, I don't think I told you guys the shortcut, but that is Control T. So if you want to write down Control T really quick on there, I'll kind of run through that in Photoshop. But Control T is the free transform command. That will allow you to resize, rotate, and reposition a layer at any time. I'll be looking at your design and your concept that you create, so it has to be cohesive and the pieces you're putting into it. Making sure that you're file naming correctly as well, and then outputting it to your portfolio. The very last piece down on the page here talks about creating the document. It's going to be an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and it's going to be either portrait or landscape depending on what you choose for your final product. Either one is fine with me. I like probably on this project a landscape, but that's just how I design. And your resolution should be set to 300 because we will be printing this, so it's important that it does have the correct output for it. We're going to go over this page right here right now. So if you want to take a look on your packet, you can go ahead and switch to that. We're going to jump over to the internet really fast before we get into Photoshop and talk about how to save stuff correctly. So you will have to be sourcing your images from certain places. Like it could be the internet. You could go to Google and you could do an image search and find it there if you want. So if I come in here and I type in the Grand Tetons, because obviously I've already done that with my demo, the first thing that comes back is all. So it's going to give me information about the Grand Tetons, which I don't need. I really want photos, so I go to the images side of things. When you're here, you want to make sure the very first option is that you change your tool settings, or click on tools, you get some options that pop up. We get size, we get color, so if you're looking for a black and white photo, you can change that there. The type, we don't really care about time, and we are not going to focus on copyright issues today. We're doing this for a school project, so it kind of falls underneath fair use. We don't have to worry about breaking any laws that way. But we're going to come back and we're going to search for large. So somewhere on your notes by that picture I showed you there, just make sure that you change your image size to large. Okay, we want to make sure we're searching for large photos. And as you take a look at the pictures that are on this screen in front of you, it's important to note that this is not the largest version of this photo, right? So if I want to take this peak right here, I click on it, Now we're getting somewhere. This is the small version that you're looking at here. This is called a thumbnail. We need to make sure we copy the big one. To do that, you can either right click on it and save this image. If you're not sure if this is the biggest version of it, you can always click open image in new tab, and it will just bring you the blank photo by itself. So what I can do now is save this properly. I'll right click and I'll save my image. And this is where an update needs to be made on your sheet. Underneath tips and tricks, the second bullet down, it says right click save images to your iDrive. We're going to change that to the G drive. And you can put them in whatever folder you're using for this class when you save your images there. They have to be saved. At this point too, I'd probably give it a better name than the numbers that it has. I've already done this a couple times today, but we'll just come in here. You can see I've got Grand Tetons. We're going to change this to Grand Tetons 2. And I've got access to that now when I go back. So I would gather all my photos up. If you don't want to use Google, we have other options that are out there. We belong to a thing called Storyblocks, a royalty-free website that has stock imagery. And all of the images that you get from here are going to be of high quality. The login information is on the walls. If you look around, you can also write it down if you want, but it's my email, bbond@hananiga.org. And then the password is Indians. And once you get in, you've got the ability to search for different things. So we could do Halloween if we wanted to pull Halloween things. And if we want photos or vectors, you can pull those back, and I can take those. To get these, you just simply click the download option, and it's going to download as a JPEG for you. If you click on it, it may give you some other things that are within inside of the group. I don't see much there. It's just a similar image, but you got the option here sometimes of choosing the type of file you download. So that would work for that if you want to use that particular website. I didn't put it on the sheet, but it does help. So I gave you some tutorials too if you want to go out and type this tutorial link in. It's someone else, but they're making a collage, and it kind of walks through their process. So let's go back to Photoshop. I'll walk you through the process of creating something. So we're going to go to File, New, and we're going to go to a print document. We're going to choose letter, and I like landscape. So we're going to come in here and click Create. You good, Luke? They are over by the exposure unit. You see how there's that long roll on the ground? See it? They're laying flat there. Yep. So we got our blank document. Now it's time to start working with it. Let's go ahead and get a file. I've already saved a bunch of stuff, so we're just going to go grab those pieces. I'm going to place some stuff. Go to Graphics, Intro, Photoshop, Examples, and I've got a whole bunch of different pieces in here that I can work with. So first thing I'm going to do is maybe take this picture of the Tetons, and I'm going to place it in here. When it comes in, we've got some things we need to be concerned with. Obviously, it doesn't fill up the entire document that I have, so I'm going to come down, and I'm going to pull in the corner and make it stretch out big enough to make it fit there. Once I get it where I like it, I push the Enter key, and you'll see how it kind of cleaned itself up a little bit because there was some pixelization that was taking place. I only want the bottom half of the mountains here, so what would you suggest doing? Anybody have an idea on how to remove the sky? Yes? Yep, I would do a mask. You could do it 2 ways. You could use your quick select tool and make a selection right now, or you could just add a mask to it and start to paint in with your paintbrush. I would say probably the mask option is the best, just if you want to get like those nice jagged edges that are there. So I'm going to take my quick select tool, make sure I've got my Teton selected, and I'm going to drag through there. I kind of lost these little ones here, so I'm going to hold the Alt key. And there we go. I've created my selection of the sky. Now it's time to apply my mask. So I'm going to look at my top control bar, and you can see that I've got the select and mask piece up top, and I've just masked out that portion. If I go to the view on layers, oops, what happened? I got the wrong piece, right? I selected the sky, not the bottom. Well, I can click the invert option, and now it's gone. So depending on what you select, you've got some options to play with there. And I need to move me so I can get to the output. Making your output selection is very critical here. Layer mask is super important. We'll click that. You can see the mask has been applied up there. We have this weird line that's up top. We know what we can do. We can come back with our paintbrush. We know that black is going to hide stuff. Make sure your layer mask is active, and I should have a paintbrush first. There we go. My brush a little bit bigger, and there we go. I've created a good selection. I maybe have some issues that happened right here. I think I maybe lost some of the mountains, but we'll just deal with that for right now. So the next thing is to maybe get another sunrise or something behind there that's different. So I'll go file place. I'll just do one more piece, then I'll show you some finished products. Maybe we want to do this sunrise. Back up. Bam, enter. And maybe I'll put it below here. And now you can see how I'm starting to layer things and it's coming through. Maybe I can't go any higher. Got to stay about there. So I've just added a whole new sky to this photo, which is kind of cool, right? What else could I do? We could add some animals to it. If I come back and I'll jump over and start looking at my examples that I've got going on here. Okay. Oh, I know why that's happening. Let's go to this one. Here's my working layers for this particular document. I'll start at the top and turn some stuff off. I started with the bison. I really didn't do much to him. I didn't do any masking. I just kind of moved his position a little bit because I wanted him in the upper corner. Then I went to the moose, and it looks like I made a copy of him, and I just used a paintbrush with a mask on it. So to do that, I'll go back and I'll show you what I did. You apply a mask and get your paintbrush up. And I want to feather him in a little bit so he starts to hang out with the buffalo. Maybe make this a little bit smaller. And then I went to the mountains. I wanted the bottom portion of the mountains to show up, so I kind of what I did in the last example there. There you go. But I've got this weird piece that showed up right here. So I need to come back to my moose layer and bring my white up and add that portion back in. So I get a nice clean piece there, right? Next is how I handled this piece. So I threw some effects onto the mountains to kind of make them pop a little more, right? So you can add a little extra to it. So I've got my mountains selected. You can see I renamed them as well. You have an FX button down on your layers panel. You can choose any of these and play with them. So let's just choose bevel and emboss. You can see how it's created like a little raised edge to it almost. And that is kind of a fun thing to play with, depending on where you can see how it's changing the glow that's there. You can throw strokes onto these two. We did strokes last hour and it kind of came out okay. Go. Something weird's happening there, so let's get back to here. Get our white up maybe. Nope. Switch that over. We want black, it looks like. There we go. So we got that portion. Next I added, it looks like a fox. I came in here, did a quick select of him, put him up top. And then this here was just a solid color that I put in there. But I made it green and I changed its blend mode so that it interacts differently. See, that is 100%. It's just a solid green, right? But I wanted it to interact, so I did overlay. And now I've created this like green tint or hue to everything. And then I put just a crazy little like texture background over the top of it to give it a little bit of depth. And the last piece I did was I added some text. And I changed, so this was white text probably, it looks like. Yep. And if it was normal, you can see how it's white, but if you change it to overlay, it'll interact with the pieces below it. And if we throw a stroke onto there, you start to get it to pop a little bit. So that was that one. Other ones I've done as an example. Let's go back to this. So let's go to the very last page of your packet. You can kind of take a look at these examples. I'm looking at this particular one down here. This is kind of an interesting piece that I think most of us can accomplish. So obviously we want to stay within inside of our ability level. So as we take a look, you can see how different people and things have been layered together. The idea for the Tetons came from the stag that you see right here, how those things are kind of stacked on top of each other with mountains. They've got this geometric pattern that's sitting on top of it. Then this one down here is kind of fun. And I'll show you how to do these stacked pictures in just a second. But this one over here is just random, and it works. Okay, so creativity is however you want to take a look at it. But to create these stacked photo pieces, because you can take your own photos of your friends and your family if you want, and create something like this. They probably used a mask for the coffee cup. They masked around the tulips, a mask around the camera. And then they had to bring these photos into here and work with them and put effects onto them. So to do it, it's pretty straightforward. Let's throw both of these away. This one had a lot of work done to it, by the way. If we kind of back this up really quick. I started with this original photo, got it to here, so I like the sky. I added in these mountains. I made a copy of summer, so I just dragged it down and made a copy of it. And then I flipped it. You kind of see how that took place there. And eventually masked it so it was only in the water, so it looked like the water had a reflection. Everybody see that? The water doesn't have the sky reflection in it, but once you reflect it, I changed its blend mode, so it's an overlay, so it sits on top of the water. And the last piece was that background that was there. Anyways, getting back to the Polaroid type look, what I can do is I'm going to place an image. And I don't know, let's just make it fast. We'll go ahead and get the wolf. We're going to scale them down, press enter, but we want to get that white border that goes around it. That's going to be done with the FX button on the bottom, and we go to the strokes panel, and we can see we've created that white piece there. If we want to add a small little drop shadow, you can do that too. Maybe a little, or an outer glow perhaps. That's bad looking. Don't do that. And if you want to make copies or rotate this, like I said, you can do Control-T. That's your free transform, and that'll allow you to rotate. And then you could potentially just start to stack, different pieces. One little side note I want you to add underneath the tips and tricks that I probably should put in there that's not there is to turn off auto select when using the move tool. So I have got the move tool up right now. I want you to uncheck auto select. That's an important piece to have unchecked. If you do not have auto select unchecked, it allows you to jump through the layers and make a disaster of what's going on. So uncheck auto, and then you will be able to rotate your stuff, move it around, and get it on the document. Like I said, there's a lot of creative freedom with this. You can go out to Google, you can do Photoshop collage stuff and see what's taking place out there. Get some examples. You've got today, Friday, and your day next week to work on it. And we'll go from there. If you're going to need more time, you obviously got to have to work outside. We'll probably assign this as remote homework for Monday. You guys are gone. Any questions as a group? Okay.